Oh my god, it's way too bright outside. It's hurting my eye. It's hurting. It burns. I'm gonna go back inside.
And here we are, the last dreadful day before the quarterly exam. We've made it this far, so you might as well go out with a bang, am I right? So, the Middle East. Stay tuned. The mandates in the mandate system came from the former Ottoman Empire. So the fall of the Ottoman Empire led to the mandate system. And in the 1920s, British and French divided up the Middle East under a League of Nations. And just like they did in Africa with the Berlin Conference and the Scramble for Africa, that whole look at last video if you don't know what I'm talking about. The borders of the nations that were eventually created as a result of British and French imperialism reflected the mandate system, not the internal demographics of the area. By 1953, independent Egypt sought to unite all Arab nations, which was called Pan-Arabism. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but that's exactly like Pan-Africanism. Look at the last video if you don't know what I'm talking about, or look at your box notes. That's a good idea. Zionism was basically Jewish nationalism, and it was a movement founded in the 1890s to promote the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Theodor Herzl was a Zionist who fought for the creation of the Jewish state of Israel. The Balfour Declaration was created in support of the Zionists, and in 1917, the Balfour Declaration declared Britain to be in favor of establishing a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, which caused the mass migration of Jewish people because obviously they're going to want to live in their homeland, so because they're safe there. The White Paper in 1937, after pressure by Arabs, Britain limited immigration to 75,000 Jewish people. So this came at a bad time because this is around the time when Hitler was creeping up on the Jewish people. And, if Britain hadn't closed Palestine to they wanted to limit immigration because, the Arabs were getting mad because they've lived here and now all these people are moving here, taking away their land, stuff like that. So Britain closed it off at the worst time because if Palestine was open to the Jewish people, the numbers of the Jewish people that were murdered during the Holocaust probably would have been a lot lower. But I'm going to slip my tea, Britain. So now the UN partition of 1947. This is after the Holocaust, so obviously there was a lot of public sympathy for the Jewish people. And this was the UN's proposal of dividing the remaining territory into a Jewish and Arab state. They were trying, it's pretty much exactly what they did with the partition of India. They wanted to split it up so that everyone was happy, but that's not always the case. This is like a continuity in this time period. They partition one country, it doesn't work out, but they think they could partition another country and think that that'll work out, but obviously it doesn't because it just causes more anger and tension between different groups because differences make us not, get along. I wish it was different, but it's not. Anyway, I'll get back to this, sorry. The Jews accepted this because they wanted a homeland for, hundreds of thousands of years because they were kicked out of theirs. They're always targeted. But the Arabs did not because they viewed the Jewish people as intruders. The Arabs already live here. I think I said it before. But this created tensions, and Arab forces from Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Iraq. I'm having deja vu right now. This has happened before. I think I've dreamt this. I dream about AP World. Anyway, and Lebanon attacked Israel, and in 1948, Israel, I've heard both pronunciations, so I'm sorry, fought for independence and beat back the Arab armies, winning the war, doubling its territory, and gaining one half of Jerusalem. The Suez Crisis of 1956 was when Israeli, British, and French attempt to take the Suez Canal from Egypt. It was just an attempt. They didn't succeed. However, In 1967, Six-Day War, Israel captures the Sinai Peninsula, and they offered to give it back to Egypt for land for peace, that whole deal, because they wanted Egypt to agree to accept them and acknowledge that they exist. But Egypt was like, nah, boy, that's not happening. So they didn't get the Sinai Peninsula back. Anyway, 1973 Yom Kippur War was a surprise attack on Israel from Egypt and Syria on Yom Kippur. Israel won and acquired more of the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. This is kind of it keeps happening. Israel keeps winning because all these wars, Israel would put everything they had into it because they don't want anything like the Holocaust to ever happen to them again. So they know how to fight back. They are very, very, they know what they're doing. Anyway, the Camp David Accords of 1979 was a turning point because it was the first Arabic nation saying that Israel had the right to exist. Israel gave Egypt back to Sinai Peninsula. So gave the Sinai Peninsula back to Egypt. That was the whole thing. So at first, Egypt was like, nah, we're not going to do that. And then the Camp David Accords 1979, they agreed. They got the Sinai Peninsula back. And Israel got acknowledged by the first nation. Gamal Abdel Nasser was the president of Egypt who sought to unite much of the Arab world with an Arab nationalism and eventually aligned Egypt with the Soviets, hoping to get the British out of the Suez Canal. The PLO stood for Palestinian Liberation Organization and was a terrorist group created in 1964 to fight for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of the Palestinian state. Yasser Arafat led the PLO from 1965 to 2004, and he used terrorism to promote the cause. Intifada is a spontaneous uprising, and it's basically to start war with the Israelites and cause chaos. There was one in 1987 by the Palestinians led by Arafat, which led Israel to negotiate the Oslo Accords of 1993, and Arafat turned them down. He was like, nah. There was another Intifada uprising, and finally the Oslo Accords succeeded in, agreeing to peace, and Jordan recognized Israel and that stuff. So that was a very poor explanation, but I think I got it across. Sorry I'm not good at English, guys. Anwar Sadat was a moderate president of Egypt and attempted to compromise. However, a fundamentalist army assassinated him. Yitzhak Rabin, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, was a moderate prime minister of Israel who also attempted to compromise, but a group of radicals assassinated him. Shah Reza Pahlavi was a dictator of Iran who was put into power by the CIA and had American support. He imposed modern Western ideals on Iran. Islamic fundamentalism. Fundamentalism is defined as a form of religion, in this case it's Islam, that upholds belief in strict, literal interpretation of scripture. So President Jimmy Carter of the U.S. withdrew support from the Shah and allowed the people to choose their own leaders, which led to the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Who got that right? Dab! Sorry. Anyway, I'm trying to be funny. It's just not working today. Fundamentalists believed modernizing or westernizing was a new form of imperialism and was a threat to their traditions. Woo! Damn, Jenna, you cannot speak English or Spanish. I totally failed that Spanish exam. Anyway. The Ayatollah Khomeini was appointed to power and quickly made Iran an Islamic state that followed strict Islamic law and tradition. The Ayatollah was a fundamentalist and banned all Western books, movies, music, and limited women's rights. The Iran-Iraq War was from 1980 to 1988. The Ayatollah in Iran had encouraged other Muslim fundamentalists to overthrow the moderate governments in the Arab world. The Iraqi government had been dominated by Sunni Muslims, and the Iranian government was largely Shia Muslims. The two Muslim groups were rivals. They did not get along. Saddam Hussein was an Iraqi military dictator who led Iraq into attacking Iran in 1980. Iraq and Iran fought until the UN ceasefire in 1988. The Persian Gulf War in 1990. Iraq invaded Kuwait to take control of its oil industry. It's all about that money. They're trying to get the bills. Oh, that was disgusting. I'm so sorry. Okay, because the U.S. saw this as a threat to other Middle Eastern countries, the U.S. responded by forming a trade embargo against Iraq, which is pretty much a ban of trade with Iraq. And the U.S. sent troops to Saudi Arabia. Eventually, the UN authorized war on Iraq to force Saddam Hussein's withdrawal. The 1993 World Trade Center attack was bombings in the parking lot. Only 5 people died, but many were injured. September 11, 2001, 2 hijacked planes flew into both buildings, destroying the World Trade Center, costing many lives. The Taliban, a fundamentalist Islamic government, allowed al-Qaeda, a terrorist group, to use bases to plan these attacks. In 2011, the leader of al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, was killed when the U.S. invaded Afghanistan and removed the Taliban. The War on Terror. After 9/11, the U.S. launched a war on terrorism, which caused them to put economic pressure on countries who supported terrorism. Hezbollah launched terror attacks against Israel forces in 2006. Hamas launched several suicide bombing attacks against Israeli civilians in public places in the 1990s. Recently, Hamas won the Palestinian elections and now controls the Palestinian parliament. ISIS is an Islamic fundamentalist group that has seized parts of Iraq and Syria. It is a radical anti-Western militant group that wants to establish an independent Islamic state. And that was it for today, guys. I hope it was helpful. Good luck tomorrow. I'm sorry I couldn't do the last topic, but we went over it in class, and you could do it alone. It's a short one. I'm doing it alone. If I could do it alone, you could do it alone. We're in this together. Anyway, good luck tomorrow. Also, I'm editing right now, and I forgot to say that I might do more videos, like, here and there for, like, the AP review. I'm not making any promises. And I also added in all those different terrorist groups instead of just talking about ISIS, because I feel like it's good to know them, like, for background information or something. Anyway, thanks for watching.